welcome back to the Urban Schoolhouse. It's Ebony,
And Chelsea.
and we are here today to talk about the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
Now, today's topic is a pretty sensitive topic, so brace yourselves. And we are going to be having a guest with us today. She is a long-time friend of mine, and she is a lawyer. And she is going to talk to us about the school to prison pipeline. We're going to do a little Q&A with her. Her name is Gabrielle Lacy. Welcome to our show.
Yay.
Thank
Yay!
you. Thank you so much for having me. Just a little intro about myself. I am a criminal defense attorney. I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law right here in the city. And I've practiced criminal defense in Wayne, Oakland, Washtenaw, a few cases in Monroe, but mainly Oakland, Washtenaw, and Wayne. Um, and I am excited to be here. I do think that we need to have a second episode on this topic
Yes.
with some more of my colleagues because when we were discussing just a few questions that we had tonight, it got pretty interesting.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So you did a little pre-discussion.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I love that. Just preparation.
Yes.
Okay, well, good. So what you think about this topic, Chelsea?
I'm excited about this topic. I think from a social work perspective, it's huge because the school to prison pipeline um, definitely disproportionately impacts Black children, Black students, and it can. And there's research that shows that it can literally change the trajectory of their life with how much they're getting punished inside of schools. Um, and I think it's just important to remember outside factors when it comes to punishing a child and bringing in outside forces such as the police or things like that. And I think it's important to bring awareness of the damage that can really do for the student, for families, for communities, when you don't really have trust in your school and you don't have trust in the police force, these people that's supposed to be taking care of the community and our kids. So I think it's a very important conversation.
It's a huge conversation.
And it's very layered because like about it's systemic oppression, systemic racism in education. Talks about it goes into mass incarceration. So I definitely agree that this is a very layered, nuanced, multi episode
right.
conversation. But we're gonna try to kind of
Get
keep
it in.
Get it in. Yeah, get
I
it
mean,
in a
we
little
love
bit.
a series, so
We do love a series.
So I think it's important too, and I'm so here for it, and I'm really ready to pretty much just dive into our Q&A that we have for our special guests.
Yes.
So I guess we'll just take turns asking questions.
Yeah, I can start. So we can start with the first question. So can you explain what a school to prison pipeline is and how it affects students, especially those from marginalized communities?
Sure. So the school to prison pipeline is the path that children take, usually Black or other children from marginalized communities, take from elementary school straight to prison. So it does start in the school with children of color are disciplined more severely than their white counterparts. Marginalized people or people of color for different small infractions will be penalized, whereas if they were white, they wouldn't be penalized, or it would be just, a brush off and say, you know what, don't do it again. Oftentimes in our communities, Black people and marginalized children are automatically seen as criminals.
Yeah.
And so the school starts to treat things and handle not things that should be treated non-criminally as criminal matters, especially when it's with Black children.
Anything to add on that?
I was just gonna talk about what we were speaking about earlier when we were talking about an administrator calling the police without calling a parent.
We're going to touch on that.
Ooh. I mean,
and
that's what came to mind when you were talking.
Let's jump to that then.
Okay.
You had a question. What role does law enforcement presence in schools play in escalating disciplinary actions? And this is going to touch on that and another one of your questions. But I don't believe that the law enforcement should be there as a police officer. They can be in their police officer uniform, but their goal shouldn't be the police. Their goal should be more of a community liaison for these children, to introduce them to police officers, and the officer could be more of a companion in the school. Hey, come, this is good, or someone that encourages these kids as they come in. Maybe right next to the principal as the kids are walking in. You see some schools where the principal's standing there at the door to welcome the kids in every day. Maybe right there, and he's introducing and interacting with these children in a social aspect. It's not a criminalized of criminalized nature. You touched on something that really bothers me. You said that they call the officers without the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are no good. And how many times do you watch Law and Order where you see kids get caught up and the parents come in there and they're like, tell them everything, Johnny. Just tell them. Didn't she call you last night? Because parents don't know the rights.
Yeah.
You know what you need in the schools is an attorney that is going to protect the rights of those children, because parents don't know, the children don't know, and most of the time the teachers in the school don't know.
I'm raising my hand on that because, first of all, that'll never happen. The school is going to hire an attorney
for themselves.
To protect the school.
For themselves.
Never the students. And then sometimes as a professional advocate, trying to protect the students can become a task when you're up against the school administration.
Most definitely.
Parents don't know, that's true. Hopefully some parents that are listening to this podcast will learn some of those rights that they have. Students don't know. And I was telling Chelsea that exact thing that is opposite of what you said. So it's good that you're saying this, because I'm thinking if a parent comes, then they will be able to protect the child. And they're not giving children Miranda rights or anything like that. They're not being read to them. And so here I am in the background thinking, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, And furthermore, what you said made me think about how I've sat there and watched this happen to kids who were literally afraid that they would be going to jail. Saying to me, are they going to take me to jail? And me telling them no, because I'm thinking over my dead body. Will they handcuff you and take you to jail?
Right.
So it's a complex issue because it's very scary for children, and it's mortifying also to their parent once they are notified that the child has had the police call on them, because they don't know what to do, And again, obviously getting an attorney would be a good thing to do. Tell us why. Tell us what an attorney could do for a child in a situation where they brought weed to school, or they had a fight that turned so vicious that now the police are being called.
Well, those are two different incidences, and that also leads into one of your other questions about the no tolerance policy or zero tolerance policy, and there being a case-by-case basis. That's a tricky line. The no weed to, if a child was accused of bringing weed to school, really an attorney would be able to, one, step in for that child, make sure that the questions are not asked that shouldn't be asked of that child. Because a child can hear something and answer it untruthfully, but think they're telling the truth because they don't understand the question fully, right? Children all the time, they have different levels of understanding, different development levels. And so you have an officer questioning this child and asking them questions that they may think means one thing.
Absolutely.
And the officer knows what he means it as, but the child doesn't. A prosecutor is going to read it and know what the officer meant, but they're not necessarily going to know how that child interpreted that. So we really need a juvenile attorney, an attorney that is skilled in working with children and knows juvenile law as well as adult law, because a lot of times nowadays, especially with our Black children, they want to charge them as adults. So it's necessary. And you said it'll never happen, one of your questions is, what can we do as parents? I'm a parent myself of 5 kids, and this is dear to my heart because I saw it with one of my own, my oldest, who finds comfort in the Hogback Hilton, which is the Washtenaw County Jail. Um, and it's frustrating because he's super smart, but from a young age in school, he was getting in trouble for minor things that some other kids in the classroom weren't getting in trouble for. And there was a moment where I had pulled him out of public school and put him in a charter school thinking it was better. It's not better. And the principal was a black man. So I was thinking this will be good for my kids. It wasn't. When I went up there to observe, I noticed that he wasn't even in the school. He was walking through the parking lot to my car and he had a little bouncy ball. And he was bouncing it and he was catching. He's got great motor skills. So the ball was going straight to his hand. And the principal ran out and said, no, 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 don't do that. It's not safe. And here I can look across the parking lot and 2 other kids, white boys, are bouncing this ball. They can't keep control of their ball. Their ball is running all over the place. And that's the day I pulled them out because I'm like, this is not the environment for my children to be in.
Yes.
But the damage was already done.
And just to speak to that, Chelsea often brings up how going to school with predominantly white students as the population at her school for many years, all her years, until college, and feeling all kinds of ways that she was being treated differently. And sometimes she wasn't even telling me, and I didn't even know until recently. So we had opened up about these conversations and started to have them, that she was going through a lot of stuff just because she was black. So
yeah, it's a big deal. Big deal in schools.
I'm glad she wasn't troubled. And the last thing I want to say is that, well, not the last thing, but about this, is that you're so right when they don't know the skill level or understanding of a child, and that is never discussed.
Right.
We know skill levels of children. Some of them are cognitively impaired. And those are the ones that are more likely to be in that situation, not an honor student.
Exactly. So one of your questions were, how can schools balance safety concerns? Oh, number 6. Number 6 is none.
Oh, number 6.
Oh, really?
Number 6 is none.
What legal protections exist for students to prevent unfair or biased disciplinary practices?
None, and especially if you're in a charter school. If you're in a charter school, you have the board, and you can go to board meetings and you can voice your complaints. But other than that, if they don't feel like they need to do anything, nothing's going to happen, and there's no one above them to make them move.
Correct. Even on an employee level.
Yep, even on an employee level. I've had plenty of employees call me trying to sue their former employer, a charter school, and there's really no accountability.
There's no accountability because there's really no contract.
Exactly. So in public schools, though, that board is elected, and they work for you, the people. So going to those board meetings, going to PTOs, going to those meetings and conferences, that can make some change in your school. If you speak up there and get other parents behind you, those constituents will do and adjust for the people because they're elected by the people.
Right. One thing I wish that school board elected officials were also educators. A lot of times I find they come from business sectors or other sectors, but it would help if they were able to know more about frontline classrooms, school buildings, and how they actually work.
I know an excellent point. Yeah, right. That's an excellent point.
Because bullying is a big deal, and that's why you're here, actually, because we were doing bullying as a series, and we wanted to move forward with talking about this toward the end of that series. And honestly, it goes hand in hand because a lot of bullying becomes school violence, which becomes issues with police.
Exactly. And as for Black children, of course, if you tussle or fight in school, the police are called and charges may be brought.
Mm-hmm.
If you threaten someone, draw pictures, police are called, charges may be brought. You ain't coming back to school. And there is no more clear example than what we had right here in Michigan in Oakland County. Had that boy been Black drawing them pictures, he would not have been at school.
Oxford.
Yep, Oxford. He would not have been at school. The police would have been called, and his parents would have been down at the police station to get him, not to meet the teachers at the school. It would have been a totally different situation. His backpack would have been searched.
Yeah.
And, there might have been a CPS investigation where they went into the home and searched the home.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, a CPS investigation would have happened if the child was Black.
Well, I'm glad that I'm Black in my space because they run things like that past me for sensitivity reasons, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. They let me hear sometimes before we pick up the phone and call CPS because you have to think about factors that are sometimes beyond you.
Yep. So one of the things that I believe should be happening in school is they need to stop adultizing Black children.
You shaking your head. What you got to say?
It's a real phenomenon, and I learned about it in grad school actually. Where is it adultizing? Is that the
adultizing?
It's when basically Black. We've talked about it, but there's just an actual
type thing.
Not really. It's like society we expects more out of Black children, and you treat Black children like they're adults over everything. You just expect them to be way more mature, and that standard is only for them. They don't expect little Timmy to be mature at 6, but you expect little Day Day to be mature at 6 years old,
and then you call him Day Day.
Exactly.
And you're trying to figure out why he's not mature.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So
and he's not mature for lots of reasons.
Yeah. And these poor children are growing up in these environments where they're being forced to.
It's like an unfair standard.
Yep, it is.
It's an unfair standard.
Yep. Yeah. It's a double standard, basically.
Double standard, yes.
And it's terrible because it's really wreaking havoc on our children, and it's removing them from the educational space altogether. So not only is it wreaking havoc on them mentally, it's also wreaking havoc on their ability to become something in the future.
It happens in the home too. From a counselor standpoint, kids who have to drop out of school or whatever, take care of their siblings. Mm-hmm. That's adultization. It's stuff like that, where it's so many outside factors that other demographics don't have to really deal with to the level that Black families do, and stuff like that also impacts their schooling as well. They have to get a job, they have to take care of their siblings, they have to do this, they have to do that. They're not. School is the last thing on their mind because it's a privilege to only think about school.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's sad.
Yeah. So you had a question somewhere about zero tolerance.
I said, how does zero tolerance policies in schools influence the pipeline? And I know my mom talked about before at her job how when the population became more predominantly Black, they moved. So it was my former job.
Yeah. And when I first started there, the school and the district itself was predominantly White. But during my time there, it gradually became mixed, and then it gradually became more Black. So there were more fights because the kids were coming in the district from Detroit public schools, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, they were fighting. And they had never seen those types of fights before because I actually watched this transition. White kids fade out, Black kids came in. And you could see the white people leaving by the droves, including the sale signs in the yards in the neighborhood. And as the Black kids came to the school and to the district, started fighting, they changed the policy as it relates to suspending you for fighting. So there used to be a 3 to 5 day flexible fight suspension for kids who had a fight. But once black kids started fighting, it became an automatic 30-day suspension.
And that just points to the decriminalization of white kid bad acts versus the criminalization of black kid bad acts. Instead of the 3 to 5 days talking with the parents, trying to figure out why the child was fighting, so I'm sure all of that was going on for them. It's just send him home. He's out for 30 days and we don't want to talk about it.
And likely the kids fail. If you're out of school for 30 days,
that's a long time
you're
to
being
be at
set
home.
up for failure.
Yep.
And I would go out of my way, again, trying to be the auntie in the office, trying to make sure our kids got their homework, try to make sure, that they would do it. But you can't control what's going on in a person's home.
Exactly.
And a lot of times I would get the homework out, but it didn't come back complete. Yeah. And they will wind up failing because they're not getting the instruction and they can't.
There's no structure when you suspend a child and send them home. There's no structure. Okay. And the child is going to do what the child does. Fighting gets me out of school. I'm out of school. Now I get to sit at home and do whatever. And even if you try to take away, all the electronics or whatever and tell them they're on punishment, how many parents are doing that? Because most of the time they're single parents and they can't work, keep the house going, and monitor their child like that. So now you've got 8 hours of the day where this kid is sitting at home, probably longer because the work day is usually about 10 to 12. But who's instructing him? Where's the structure? So creating a program where if a child is fighting, counseling, discussion, finding out what the real issue is. And I think at least for the first time, that would be a great start. And that's another position or another reason why your officer shouldn't be there to police. Your officer should be there as a community liaison so that, the kid is coming in having a bad day, something's going on at home, the officer will notice that shift because teachers got to teach. Mm-hmm. And a lot of teachers are taking on that burden, especially in the Detroit public schools, of noticing the shift and the change in the children in the classroom and then taking time out of teaching to step to that child and try to prevent a greater tragedy. And I think that having a liaison officer that could notice something like that and pull the kid to the side, now the kid is starting to bond with this officer and he won't see him as this disciplinarian, forceful object in the community, but as someone that I can go to and say, hey, I'm struggling.
Yeah. I had mentioned that before you got here about how for cultural competency reasons, like being aware that most Black people, most Black children do not have a good idea of police. They might have a bad experience with police officers. I have a friend.
Should they? I'm trying to figure that out because should we tell our kids to beware in certain regards?
That's what I'm saying, and I'm saying like, and you're calling them. That's just damaging everything. I have a friend who her kids were caught in a situation, and her children were actually handcuffed in the situation, and they were like less than 5 years old. Wow. It's like I was like, and there was a bad scene happening. I was like, those officers should take in your babies, put them in a cop car, distracted them.
That's crazy.
Bring the dog. Hey, give them a little sheriff sticker. Like, why are you treating them like they're criminals and they're literal like toddlers? You know what I mean? So there's situations like that where now those children are scarred already. They're not even 5 years old from police officers.
Traumatized.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we watched a video last week, and in the video they were talking about the resource officers being in the school, kind of like what Gabe is saying. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like it was kind of discouraged in a way. Or are they saying that this whole phenomenon began with those resource officers being in the schools? Because we have an officer who works for my current school, and he's a great presence, but he doesn't wear a uniform, and he works there, but he's a cop. I don't think a lot of kids know he's a real cop.
Mm. So if we could get a mix of that, that would be perfect. Because I think that it helps the children to know that they're a real cop, but it also helps the children to know that he's not there to discipline. He's there to help you get through your day.
But sometimes they have to restore order. And he's there doing that as well. And he helps the kids get through their days. But when they go to fighting and carrying on, then he's helped to restore order.
But as a community officer or a community resource officer, when two kids are fighting, he can say, instead of, hey, he can say, Johnny, Bobby,
Right, because he knows
what's
them
going on?
definitely, and that's
Didn't we
exactly
talk
what he
about
does.
this
It's such a
yesterday?
small difference, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it makes a huge
And he
difference.
knows these kids
Yep.
because he sees them every day. He knows exactly what they're gonna do,
He humanizes
and he
Yeah.
humanizes it. He
That's
totally
exactly
does.
the difference. Because in the store, when somebody's thinking they're stealing something, hey, that's who they are.
Exactly.
And on the street, when somebody thinks they're messing with their property, hey, get off my grass. Hey,
Yeah,
that's who they
that's
are.
how you get
When
shot.
you're a community
When you hate.
officer, yeah, yeah, when your community officer wants to go break up a fight and he can call these kids by their first name or their nickname because they've
Yeah.
got nicknames with the officer, that makes a big difference.
So listen. So why do you think more schools don't have this already? Then?
My high school had an officer there. I really didn't see him a lot, and again, me being aware of what police are capable of, I avoided him at all costs. I mean, he was never like threatening to me anyway. I literally, I would see him and I would kind of like, like I would just kind of move. Even when fights happen, he didn't break them up. Not that I saw. It would be teachers. Yeah.
I typically
And
try to avoid
he wore a
fights.
uniform. He wore a uniform and everything, but I never saw him like break up a fight.
I'm just getting too old to be in a fight. I just have to say, stop.
Understandable.
Stop. Don't do that.
So yeah, and then going
Somebody
back,
come
going back to some things I've been dealing with. So I am a special education and general education social worker. So I deal with children who are in special education classrooms. Most of them have ASD or autism spectrum disorder. And I have a situation where primarily the Black children in these classrooms are getting suspended for having reactions to things.
And they're in elementary.
Elementary. I'm in a K through 5. So I've had situations where literal 5-year-old Black children with autism are getting suspended.
That is definitely a policy that needs to be changed in the school.
Because it's like situations where they're obviously dysregulated. Kids with autism do a lot of stimming. They have like repetitive behaviors, and you kind of know their triggers. Like the one boy, he hates high pitched noises. When he hears high pitched noises, he will start to stim, and then he'll start to get dysregulated, and he will display aggressive behaviors. We already know this, so it's like we need to tailor the environment to make sure and to know, okay, if he starts doing this, we're going to do this, like have a plan, which is what I do. I do behavior intervention plans. So even when he might scratch and he has bitten, staff, he has done things of that nature. So whenever that happens, they say that's suspendable. So this 5-year-old level 3 severe autistic child is getting suspended for multiple days.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And I don't agree with it.
Especially when you created this behavioral intervention plan for him when he gets triggered. The teacher that's not following that plan should be suspended, quite frankly. I mean, you've given them the path on how to take care of this child when he's triggered. You know what's going to happen if you don't follow your plan. He's going to end up biting or scratching or whatnot. But you've created a plan so that this child could stay in school and be successful. Why aren't these teachers following that plan so that he can stay in school and get an education?
And it's a public school, so we have to offer free and
public
education.
I listen to teachers complain about plans all the time. So this is what they say. Here we go.
But also, this is special education teacher. Like this, this is
right.
Job.
I'm like, right. Isn't there a parent
about regular ed
right?
teachers?
No, regular ed teachers should not have to deal with that.
Well, they do because of the way that the kids are integrated into the classroom.
Yeah.
So there's a paraprofessional.
It's called inclusion.
This classroom specifically has 3 paraprofessionals.
That's a lot.
This student does not have a one-on-one yet. They're trying to get one.
And some kids in my school have one-on-ones too.
And he needs one. Like I said, he's very severe, and I'm like, no, and I don't want to. I feel like when I stand up for this child, I don't want it to be spun like he can do whatever he wants because he's autistic. It's not that.
Right.
But and there's a thing, MDRs for children who have IEP. So really you can't discipline a child the same way if they have an IEP. It's called a manifestation of disability review. So if a child with the IEP is suspended for 10 days, on that 11th day, we have to hold the MDR meeting to figure out, is this behavior a manifestation of the disability? 9 times out of 10, it will be, but legally we're like, wait, like we can suspending this kid, and it's probably their disability. Like, what's going on? And they've already had a meeting, like, okay, well, it's October, and we're halfway to MDR with a 5-year-old kindergartner.
Wow. Well, the one thing I can say, the difference between a regular ed student, and I work in the general ed population as a school counselor. So I have never worked for special ed, but I work with special ed. But they are protected. Special education students are protected. And the school district still has to provide them with an education.
So no matter what, even when they're suspended, that's still LRE. That's still, so they're still getting environment.
Instruction. Yeah. They're still having a teacher meet with them in a different location other than the school where they're suspended. But regular education students, which is the majority of our babies, they don't have that protection. So they can get suspended until they're just expelled.
And what do most Black children do when they come out of high school with no degree?
Crime.
Exactly. Because you can't get a decent job and you can't articulate the employment world as well. I've seen kids come out of high school that barely made it out. I've seen kids come out of high school that did great, and then I've seen kids come out of high school that never finished. Mm-hmm. And it's a different type of struggle for each of those students. So the education part and giving them the tools to survive and be successful in the world is very important. And that's why the lengthy suspensions, especially for things that are not criminalized if a white kid does it, are very detrimental on our Black children.
And it does the white child no service either.
No.
Nope.
Because they have no accountability.
Because it shows them from a young age the privilege.
I can get away with this, but you can't.
Exactly.
And that kind of goes into the 9th question. So how does disparities in discipline, so race, disability, socioeconomic status, factor into the pipeline? You pretty much already hit it. When Black kids come out of school and they might not have a diploma, what do they turn to? Because I was in a situation usually where you need to make money, you gotta make money fast. What's the fastest way to make money?
Well,
usually crime.
Crime. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of ways to help our kids out that get sucked into this, like as a parent, because hopefully it's a parent out there that needs to hear something like this, that might be struggling through this. I'm sure it's so many parents. Like, what do we say to these people who have children who constantly get suspended or get disciplined at school? What do you say? Because honestly, I only had one child, and she never got disciplined at school, even though she might have experienced racial issues or situations that made her feel less than or what have you. She was never in trouble. So I didn't have to deal with this. Like, this is such a sensitive topic.
So as long as we don't have advocates in the school for these children, the attorney that's protecting that child, the community liaison officer that is befriending that child and trying to help them get through the day, as long as that's not there, that parent has to make a commitment to their child and say, this is important enough for me to maybe take my vacation time, go down to this school and start pushing for some changes and some policy changes. Contact your state representative.
Okay.
Contact your school board. The way that laws get created and changed, talk to your policymakers.
Definitely.
Take some vacation time and commit it to helping your child be successful in school, because nobody else is going to do it unless you make them do it.
Thanks. Well, thank you. I really love that. And I hope someone could benefit from that.
And I think, so I guess we can end off with this question. So what proactive training do you think could be done?
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
Forced implicit bias.
Forced implicit bias.
I call it forced because they shouldn't have a choice.
Right.
Yes.
They need to take this, even if they don't think they need to take it.
Exactly.
And it needs to be a good program. I'm not talking about these little patty cake programs that a lot of these government entities give to their
Educate
employees.
program.
I'm talking about a really good implicit bias program that puts you face to face with what you didn't realize you were doing.
Right.
And
Call it out.
Going to that, I also learned a lot about in grad school how it's also the teacher's responsibility, especially like if you're a non-black teacher in a black school, it is your responsibility to learn their culture.
There is
their
no
slang.
way a non-black teacher should be teaching in a black school without an implicit bias class.
Yes. Like even in Detroit, like I think it might have been a TikTok, because in Detroit we say my baby, what's up my baby, whatever, and I guess a student said something my baby to the teacher, and the teacher was like, I am not your baby, and they were like, what? Like, it's their slang. And when we laugh loud, we're loud. It doesn't mean we're being aggressive or we're threatening. We just
laugh. White kids be loud too.
Exactly.
They're extremely loud
they
too.
be loud too. I was stuck on a train from Chicago with a car full of 8-year-old girls, just so happened to be white, and somebody gave them candy.
They were on 10.
I
10, 11, 12.
heard so much the whole way back from Chicago. I was ready to pull my hair out.
It's like you said before, noise from them is not as loud.
Nobody takes offense to it.
Right.
No, because it's normal. They're just
kids. They're kids, and black kids never get, they're just, we don't get that.
And I had seen that turnaround in that school I told you I was at. There was this strip mall next door, and the white kids used to congregate there all the time. I noticed.
How quick did the no soliciting signs go up?
Oh my God. They would call the police on the black students who would congregate to the tune that the school started to tell the black kids, or not tell the black kids, but tell the kids that they can no longer congregate over there. And a lot of the kids were like getting lunches from the subway that's over there and stuff like that. So
that's another issue that I brought up, is also in urban areas, the lack of third spaces, the lack of safe space, non-legal activities for children to go to when they get out of school is also very important for crime rates. I think the mayor, I don't know, of Baltimore, question mark, he's a young black man. I think he's in his 30s actually. He has spent so much time developing after school and like just third places for black kids to go to after school, and the crime rate in Baltimore has gone down significantly. So if urban areas invest in doing that, so that can't happen, because if they can go to Subway, where they gonna go? Right. You know what I mean? What else are they gonna do?
Exactly.
Give them a place to go. That's for children.
But when you have a city that was like the city that I was working in at the time that was committed to non-change, it was hard for the police. It was just hard for the community.
And that's another reason why you talk to your policymakers. You get in touch with your state representatives, and you get in touch with the other parents in the school, because numbers matter. In our democracy, numbers matter. And we're not talking about moving the whole country. We're talking about moving the school that your child goes to so that they can be successful.
Definitely.
So if it's you and your child, look around, because it's probably somebody else too in their child. And when you build that community and you guys all show up at these parent-teacher conferences or PTO meetings or the school board meetings, and you meet with your state rep, who will have lunch with you if you call them, they will schedule a lunch. They will come out and meet with you and talk with you and talk about ways that there can be policy change. And then guess what? Your state rep has a connection with your senators and your congresswomen. And who knows what could come out of it if you have the wherewithal to take some time and invest in your child. Because right now, the way the schools are, they're not going to do it unless we push them.
That's true. Speaking of that, and I know we have to go, but I said I was going to give you reasons why teachers don't follow plans. And sometimes it's because of the rigor behind documenting the plan and dealing with the classroom. I've watched it. There are all these kids. They have all different ability levels, all different behaviors. You have some that are extreme, and you have to keep a keen eye on that child. Some that don't have a parapro with them, and like runners even I've dealt with. They call elopers. that actually will leave your room. So
I've had kids run out to the parking lot.
So have I.
Yeah.
Different
Wow.
schools, different districts.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so it is difficult for regular education teachers to document, which these plans require.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I agree with you about the regular education teachers.
but like you said, that was a special ed.
Yeah.
Yes.
More specifically, I feel like the special ed teachers and the paraprofessionals or the parapros, I think that's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They should be well equipped to follow the plan.
Absolutely.
And I know that documentation is important, but also if you're just doing the steps, that's important for that child.
Absolutely.
Documentation is important for the school and for the records to show that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But guess what? If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, nobody's coming to see your records because you don't have this huge outburst, right?
True.
You take the time to create programs for these children tailored to them.
I think that's the problem. People don't do that.
No, yeah, I had someone ask me today because I was saying that I give the
There should be
behavior
training.
intervention plans to the parents. They're like, "Oh, you do?" I'm like, "Yeah, half the time they're with them more than the teacher.
Exactly.
They probably know them more than the teacher
Yep.
does." So I was like, "Yeah, I give it to them, so everybody's on the same page."
Yes, and that's very important for the special needs children, that everybody be on the same page everywhere they turn, so that they're comfortable in the environment at school and in the environment at home.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping parents are listening. I keep reiterating that because I know so many people are going through this, and that's the reason why we even started this podcast for parents, so that they can be in the know, so that they can advocate for their children.
You bring me back on this topic, I'll come with resources.
Okay.
I didn't have enough time.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for being here.
We actually will post some resources on our Instagram, so if you want to contribute to that, feel free to email them. And I really appreciate you being here with us this evening, taking out time out your busy legal day.
It was a busy one. But no, this is super important. As a mother of 5 who have 5 very different children, this is super important, and I hope it does help someone, and I hope we do this again, and I can bring more for the panel. You gotta get some more microphones.
Yes,
I did. Well, we're a small operation, but we're all right. Well, thanks again, and follow us on
Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Urban Schoolhouse Podcast, where school is cool, and we will see you next Sunday.
All right now.